Well, there was an interesting report this morning from Deloitte looking at inward investment to the UK. And the question, not unreasonably in the report, was why has FDI been so resilient in the UK since the referendum? And the conclusions they came to are the ones that we ourselves come to, that the UK legal system, our flexible workforce, our labour laws, our regulatory and tax environments, the fact we speak English, our IP protection, good universities, access to tech, are all reasons why investors who are looking long-term, not at the next 18 months, are still investing in the UK. In terms of Brexit, I mean, I've been making the point to my opposite numbers here that we want there to be a deal, we hope there'll be a deal, we expect there'll be a deal, but there is always a chance that there won't be, and they need to make preparations for that no deal, including making bilateral arrangements with the UK where we are a party to a trade agreement by the virtue of our membership of the European Union.
When they ask you what the odds of a deal are, what do you say?
I said I would have a better chance of predicting the lottery.
It's not very reassuring.
I think it is a good chance that we'll get it, because I think there's a growing awareness, both in Europe and the UK, but perhaps more importantly inside Westminster, that under the law, the European treaties will not apply to Britain after the 29th of March. Right. The chance of changing that law is very limited. Therefore, unless we get a deal, then the no deal that everyone seems to want to avoid will happen. So I think there's been, since the defeat of the government over the previous proposals, there's been a very strong impetus to work for a deal from both those who remain and those who leave in the referendum.
And when you speak to your counterparts, European counterparts here in Davos, do you sense a willingness that their governments are willing to budge, especially on the key issue, which continues to be the Irish border and the backstop?
Well, of course, I don't get to speak to my trade counterparts because they're all represented by the European Union. But I think that there is, and talking to politicians across Europe and in the Commission, I think there's a growing understanding that if we're to set the framework for a good trade agreement with the European Union, which of course we can only enter into once we've left the EU itself, it's in everybody's interest to have agreed that withdrawal package to set the scene for what should be a very effective FTA between the UK and the EU.
Before we get there, there's been talk of the amendments on the table for the next vote, including an extension of Article 50 process. Do you think that's inevitable at this stage?
Well, of course, if you extend the Article 50 process to give Britain more time in any negotiation, it's likely to trigger Britain's participation in the next European elections. And I can't see that it's to the advantage of our European partners to have 70 UK MPs who don't really want to be there, or do I think it would go down very well with British voters who would have to go to the expense of such an election, knowing that we're just going to be leaving a few months later?
But you could extend with the hard line saying before the May vote.
Well, which gives us what? April.
Yeah.
There's not a huge amount in that. So I think that, we have promised we would leave. And a lot of this is not about the economics, it's about the politics and the credibility of the political process. Parliament in Britain gave the voters the choice on the EU, and they said, we will honour that referendum result. We passed the Article 50, the legislation that enabled it to happen, and we said, way back then, 2.5 years ago, the end date will be March 29th. One of the biggest problems there would be to tell the British people that they had voted for something 2.5 years ago, and Parliament, which promised to give it to them, was still denying it. I think there you would get a dislocation of the political process of Parliament from the voters in the way that you've seen the sort of fragmentation of continental European politics. I don't want to see that in Britain.
Hi, I'm Joanna Bersecci, and thank you for watching. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more from CNBC International. Thank you for watching.